Today, I have a great topic. Today I'm less official. I got my startup outfit. I got my drink, and we will take our time to discuss an amazing program called Startup Visa Program. Before I delve into this subject, I just want to highlight that we did similar a live session at the beginning of this year. I believe it was in February. So you can go and see another session which was earlier this year in on our website. There's a specific section where we dedicated for startups. Okay, very detailed information. Go and check it, and you can even watch this session, which is on our YouTube channel, which was done on February 12th, as I can see from this writing. Okay. For those who just joined, this is Rahmat Sobirov, managing lawyer at Sobirovs law firm. Today we will be speaking about startup visa. So there's a lack in the audio. I will try to fix it. I hope you can hear me. There's a lack in terms of video to audio lack. It's not synchronized, but never mind. We will put it online, and you can comment on that. Tell me, where are you coming from? Are you doing a startup? Are you a startup entrepreneur? What's your startup is about? Maybe you can tell us more about that, and we will before we delve into this topic. Okay. Reminder: topic is about Canada Startup Visa Program. This is a federal business program, business immigration program. It takes you to become a permanent resident. Okay. This is not a PNP, or this is not a provincial program. And as you know, I just want to make this disclaimer: everything you hear in these live sessions every Friday is just general information. Don't accept it as a legal advice. Legal advice can be obtained between when you have a lawyer-client relationship. Okay. All right. Without further ado, I will start the presentation. I'll try to be quick, but it's a very substantive topic. Okay. Because it's not that easy to explain. Now, Canada's startup visa, it is a federal program which leads you to permanent residence, you and your business partners, up to 5 business partners, and their related family members. If you are married and you have kids, you may obtain permanent residence at the end of the day. Okay. Now, let's understand the philosophy behind the startup visa program. It's called SUV. It's not a sport utility vehicle. It's a startup visa program. Okay, we refer to it as an SUV. Um, the main logic here is the following in this sentence: it's business first. Okay, it's the business first program. Immigration is a cherry on top of the price that you get as a great startup. Okay, not all startup business owners want to become permanent resident. That's another reality. We've dealt with people from European countries. They don't really want to become a permanent resident in Canada. Uh, and designated organizations are motivated by return on investment rather than converting you into permanent residents. Okay, there are two dynamics. One, the dynamics from the perspective of a designated organization in Canada that invests into your startup. The other dynamics are about immigrant applicant. There might be a cohesion in interests, but there might be different interests at the same time. What you need to understand, that designated organizations are motivated by money. Okay, they want to get a return, a huge return on the investment they put in. Okay, and they want to generate profit before they exit the startup. Okay, immigration and permanent residence is a cherry on top of the cake. The main cake, the biggest piece of this application is the, let's say, a cake. That's the business, and the cherry on top, it's a bonus. Let's say things get more pleasant when you have an immigration status. From the immigrant applicant entrepreneur perspective, that could be the only motivator, but I don't think that should be the only motivator in the startup visa program. In this session, dear friends, I will be talking more about something that goes beyond formal requirements or formal eligibility. We will deep dive into this topic from different perspectives. So you can find the basic eligibility online. It's easy. I will try to give you something that you cannot find online. So the logic behind the startup visa program is business first, immigration is a cherry on top. That's my interpretation. Okay. Now, what is startup visa program? Let's see it from the Canadian government perspective. Look at it from Canada's perspective. From the immigrant entrepreneur perspective, that's very clear. You get the money, you go to, become permanent resident, you start to run your business and so on. But from the Canadian perspective, startup visa is a public-private partnership in the sense that Canada has chosen a certain designated organizations, venture capital companies, angel investors, and incubators, and they agreed together saying that, okay, Canada, as a Canadian government, I will give permanent residence for those who you select diligently and you invest in them diligently. Then they can request from me, the Canadian government, the permanent residence status. Okay, that's private and public cooperating in one program. Canada is teaming up in that sense with a private sector, because Canada as a government is not putting its money down. Okay, it's giving, okay, I can give you permanent residence. The private sector is putting the money down. That's their risk. That's what they are doing under this program. Oh, the startup visa program connects Canadian business organizations with immigrant entrepreneurs from outside of Canada who have the skills and potential to build an innovative business in Canada. Okay, to build a successful innovative business in Canada. That's what I would add. Okay. So that's another aspect of startup visa. Now, I use this lean canvas strategy. I'm trying to be a startup owner right now. Let's look at the lean canvas of the startup visa program. What is the Canada's problem that it's trying to resolve by startup visa? The problem number one is we are losing to Silicon Valley. The best startups around the world are willing and they dream of going to Silicon Valley and get established there. The brain is going there. The great talent, innovative people, innovative projects, great minds. Hunting for those great minds is in fierce competition. Okay. Not many, I would say, there are Canadian startups who have become unicorns, who have become very valuable companies, but there are not many. The United States and some parts of Europe are winning in this battle. So that's the three problems that startup visa is trying to solve. Okay. Um, Existing alternatives. What would be the alternative? Is if you are not trying to come to Canada, what could you do if you're not interested in startup visa? You could pitch your startup idea to other countries, maybe. Not to You can also pitch your ideas to non-designated organizations in Canada, not designated investors in Canada. You should understand that there are many ways to come to Canada. It's Startup visa is one of many ways, one of many. So there are designated organizations that may support you. There are organizations that can support you, but they are not designated by Canada. Okay, so you need to look into that. That's your alternative. Immigrate to Canada through other programs. I mentioned there are more programs to immigrate. Grow your startup at home in your home country and then sell it to somebody else, maybe to Canadians, or maybe partner with Canadians. There are many creative ways for you to come to Canada. Startup visa is just one of them. Solution. The Canadian government uh, is trying to use to solve its three problems that I addressed, is to to attract foreign entrepreneurs by giving them the possibility of becoming permanent resident, okay, or getting a work permit in the meantime. So that's what they are trying to do. Is That's as if the solution for the problem. Key metrics. In this attempt, key metrics would be whether you get a support from designated organizations, whether you can get a work permit before you get a permanent residence, getting a permanent residence for you and your family. That's your key metrics of success in the startup visa application. Unique value proposition. What's so unique about this program is that if you have an innovative and investment worthy project, you can earn money in Canada and you can become Canadian. That's the unique proposition. That if you see around the world, there are a few startup visa programs of developed countries, and Canada seems to be number one in terms of immigration, in terms of money, and what you will end up getting at the end of the day, and so on. High level concept of, if you say in one sentence what startup visa will give you, is it will give you access to so-called cheaper capital, because if you try to raise millions of dollars in your home country, maybe the interest rates are so huge. I heard a Russian businessman in Russia, to raise capital, you go to commercial banks, asking for investment. First, they don't invest that much money into startups. Second, if they do invest, the interest rates are around 25%. Okay, so make your project Canadian and get and keep your permanent residence regardless of the success of your project. Okay, that's very important. That's what we will come back to when we analyze the risks and advantages or problems with startup visa. If you get permanent residence through startup visa, you can keep that PR status regardless of the success of your startup. Okay, that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Unfair advantage. Not all developed countries offer a pathway like Canada does, a pathway to permanent residence to both the applicant and his or her family members. In the US, yes, you can go as a startup. Yes, only critical people will be on board. But how about your family? How about your wife? How about your children or your husband? So in that perspective, I think Canada has an advantage, unfair advantage. Yeah, channels is Canada is promoting this program. Lawyers are promoting, immigration consultants are promoting. However, you need to be realistic. You should ask the question: is this the right program for me? Do I have what it takes to be successful in the startup visa program? Okay. Yeah, the rest is fine. Let's go to cost structure for the applicant. There is an application fee for this program, $2,075 per applicant. That includes processing fee, $1,575, and the PR fee, which is $500. Then if you have a spouse, that's another cost, your child, another cost. You may end up giving some shares to investors. You will give your startup baby, let's say it's your baby, right? You give some part of it to investors. That's a cost, that's a loss for you. And to incubators, some incubators ask for money, some incubators ask for equity, the shares in your startup. And of course, there's a lawyer's fee and living expenses in Canada. The investors will cover expenses related to startup, not to your living expenses. Revenue streams for designated organizations. How designated organizations want to see your startup in terms of return on investment. Investors want at least 3 times of their investment. Okay, if angel investor puts down 75,000, multiply by 3, they want at least that amount at the exit, when they exit your startup. The same with capital venture capitalists. Okay, share for incubators, I said it's usually 3%. Okay, now the SWOT analysis of this program. The strength startup visa is very attractive for entrepreneurs who want to make Canada their home first, because that's the main attraction point. Okay, it's relatively fast process relative to other programs. You can complete your permanent residence in about 12 to 16 months after you apply. And this program affects the whole family, your spouse, your children. There, and also, as I mentioned, there are no strings attached. If your startup fails, you still keep your permanent residence. Okay, that's ability to come to Canada on a work permit and start working while you wait for your startup visa permanent residence, like 12 months or 16 months. In the meantime, you can come and start working on your startup using a short-term work permit. The weakness of this program, to my mind, is that there's a tough selection process. Okay, excuse me. There's a very tough selection process. Great minds and more experienced entrepreneurs try to get this startup visa. Tough selection process, risk for investors who want an exit strategy. The risk of putting money down and not getting that money back, that's a real normal life in the startup world. 9 out of 10 startups will definitely fail. That's the risk that the designated institution knowingly take when they invest into your startup. For that to happen, your startup should be very, very attractive to investors. Okay, it's that problem. Immigration, not the success of the program. Immigration, not the success of the startup, could be the only motivator for applicants. I've heard many applicants in my practice who are motivated just by immigration. That's not an attractive pitch to the investors. Investors are motivated by the money. How great is your startup? They don't really care about your permanent residence, to be honest. Investors don't really care because they are not in the business of converting foreigners into permanent residents. Okay, they are in the business of making money. So you need to understand that weakness. Opportunities. This program is a great opportunity for Canadian investors to get a very high ROI. Why? If you hit the jackpot in startup world, you get a lot of return, and you can continuously grow that startup to be a $1 billion company or something. Okay, Canada can have more Canadian startups. That's the benefit. That's an opportunity for Canada. Smart entrepreneurs can move to Canada. That's the ultimate goal of the Canadian government. Although they may fail in startup number one, they may succeed in startup number 3, 4, 5, or whatever. But you as Canadian government, we can get to keep those entrepreneurs in Canada. That's a great, I would say, non-monetary benefit to Canada. Threats. There are threats related to this program. There's a threat of abusing the stream. Okay, I've heard stories where people try to buy a spot in those 5 spots that are available for 5 partners. They want to buy in the spot, although they are not critical to the business. Okay, they are just passive investors. I don't think that will fly. Why? Because there's a peer review process at the end that I will talk about in a few moments. Okay. Yes, abuse of the SUV system. Good entrepreneurs may choose federal business immigration programs. At the beginning of our meeting today, I said, is it the right program? Maybe there's another business immigration program that fits you. Do you have to share your startup with others or not? Okay. So PNPs in federal business immigration program could be alternative or less demanding immigration pathway. So this is the threat to the program. Now, I will touch upon basic eligibility, but I will highlight on the support letter. Okay, basic eligibility. To be eligible for this program, you must. The most challenging part is to get as you can see the red. You have to have a qualifying business. You need to get a letter of support, a commitment from a designated organization. You need to meet the language requirements and bring enough money to settle down in Canada. Because, as I mentioned, you are when you work for a startup, startup may get investment, but your living expenses are on your own. Okay, you got to cover that. Designated institutions, as you can see, should invest either 200,000 in case of a venture capital fund, or angel investor group 75,000, or you can get into incubators that should accept you, must accept you, in order for you to be eligible. The red spot here is getting the letter of support. How does the process work in a typical situation? You get your application package with a letter of support that investors will give you. There's a letter of support where they identify that you are a critical, essential person, yet that you should come to Canada, that they are committed to invest, and so on. You get that letter of support, which is valid only for 6 months. So fast processing. Okay, 6 months. You got to prepare your package for permanent residence and apply. Pay your application's fees. Most likely that you will pay that, because immigration is a personal matter. It's not just a startup matter. Maybe some investors will like you very much and they may pay your all overall expenses. It depends how you negotiate with them. Submit your PR applications at the end of the road. You got to submit your PR. And this is a very interesting place to focus. There's an opportunity for 5 partners to apply for PR, right? The PR, if you are applying as a group, the government will wait for all applications before processing. So it's like all for one and one for all kind of system. If one applicant withdraws from PR, then you gotta inform the authorities that, let's say, applicant number 4 has decided not to pursue PR. So, and you need to inform the government. It doesn't affect the others, but you have to inform. Processing time is about 16 to at the moment, if you have not yet applied, it's about 12 to 16 months. It's strange that on the government website, if you have already applied for startup visa, the processing time is like 36 months. I don't know why it's so that crazy. So you submit your applications and start waiting. In the meantime, in parallel, before or after applying for permanent residence, if you are considered to be an essential worker, essential person to the business, which is, you are identified as essential by the designated organization. If you are like that person, essential person, you can apply for work permit in the meantime. So 2 parallels. One is your permanent residence application is continuing for about 16 months. In parallel, you have your work permit, short-term work permit, which allows you to come to Canada with your family and start working on your business. Step number 5, arrive in Canada and settle down and start working, because you got to start working because it's not only coming to Canada, it's also working towards the success of your startup. And in the meantime, as I said, you wait and become permanent resident. While you are on a short-term work permit with your family in Canada, you and your family may benefit from Canadian system, medical system, education system. You will get salary and pay taxes out of that salary. Now, let's focus on essential person criteria. This is very good. This is one of the features of this program. As I said, if you are an essential person, you must be an essential person to become a PR, because not all of the people in your founders list may be essential. So it's something to consider. And you got to be an essential person to come to Canada earlier than your permanent residence, right? On a work permit. According to government authorities, Immigration Canada, an essential person is considered to be critical to the business and will be specifically identified as essential by the designated organization on the commitment certificate and letter of support. So that's very important. If they refuse the application of an essential person, all related applicants will be refused. That's a bit confusing to my mind. I may be wrong, but please correct me. I read this provision, this sentence, as all related applicants are the family members of that essential person, not the other four partners who are under the startup visa program. Okay, you need to be an essential person to succeed in this visa program. Business partners, who are they? What if one of those partners get refused in the PR application? That's a very valid question. Under the startup visa program, up to 5 partners can unite and may become permanent residents as a result. Not all have to apply for permanent residence, okay? I've seen cases where only 3 partners applied for permanent residence. 2 of them stayed in Europe. They're happy. They don't have to come to Canada. If one partner cannot get his or her visa, this should not negatively affect other partners in the PR application. But the designated organization, how you agree with investors, can have an effect on the success of your PR, whether you stay in Canada, whether you stay outside of Canada. So you need to be clear with your investors. They may demand you to be in Canada, okay, physically be in Canada. Then that's always something that affects your project. Also, don't forget that a qualifying business, at the time you receive your PR, you need to be providing active and ongoing management of this business from within Canada. So there's a dilemma. Do I have to come to Canada? Do I not have to come to Canada? Why, what, at the time you become permanent residents? An essential part of the operations of the business happens in Canada because it's based in Canada. And of course, the startup business is incorporated fully and correctly in Canada. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to that dynamics. Talk to your business partners, founders. Check. Ultimately, if they want to become a permanent resident, they shouldn't have any criminal history that could affect, and they should not have any medical inadmissibility issues. So try to analyze it in advance. I will leave you with 3 tips. One is your immigration strategy. You need to ask yourself, what's your personal goal in doing immigration with startup visa? Did you explore other avenues? Did you explore other immigration programs and then decided to go with startup visa? Did you knowingly decide to do it, or you were just attracted by low language skills, no investment? I think there is investment from the applicant too. You invest time, you invest certain amount of money, and so on. I wouldn't call it no investment option. Startup visa requires you in you know requires personal investment into the project, right? So second tip is, have you tested your startup? It's very unlikely that Canadian investors will put money to a startup that has not been tested. First, test your product and then pitch it to the Canadian investors. If you decide to go with startup visa program, okay? So and commit to execute. Think about this. What happens after you become permanent residents? Are you committed? Are you still willing to work on your startup? Or permanent residency was the only motivator for you? Okay? Be honest with yourself. And being honest with yourselves will help you when you are pitching to the investors. Investors don't like when you just are motivated by PR, okay? Permanent resident. You should be motivated and energetic with respect to making money, generating profit, growing this business, and so on. Okay. All right. Now this is the 3 tips. I at the beginning of our talk today, I mentioned peer review. Now, peer review is something that is from the investor perspective. Okay, government may ask to for others to review that investment decision of the designated organization. What is that and why it's done? Basically, it's done to prevent potential abuse of the startup visa program. That's as simple as that. Government does not want you to abuse the system, or does not want the designated organization to abuse the system. Okay, I think um, I think at this time I will just remind that we are talking about startup visa for those who just joined. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining. So peer review. What is peer review? Designated organization that decides to invest into your startup must do it diligently and based on the industry practices. Okay, there shouldn't be any unusual standards, right? So, Immigration Canada may request a peer review. There will be a panel of experts that will be assessing the following thing: the level of due diligence that was conducted by the designated organization, the investor, whether that whether that was consistent with industry practices, standards. And second, they will check the terms of the commitment, including the money, the services, and any fees that were charged to the applicants, and so on. And whether, again, these were the terms which are predominant in the industry. That's peer review is an independent review. If, as a result of that review, the panel of experts may say, "Oh, this was not done according to the industry practice. This is something wrong with it," and then the application for permanent residence and startup visa could be denied. The investors will be given some time to correct that mistake and continue with the process. But if they don't correct, they will be identified as de-designated. So they will lose their designation and they can no longer participate in the startup visa program. Peer review also will make sure that the business has been incorporated correctly in Canada, ensure that the business ownership has been verified, who are the owners who are participating in the program, ensure that the designated organization consider the viability of the proposed business model. Are they putting the money down, or did they do their due diligence? Is it viable overall? Startup, is it a great project or not? Will it fly or not? That will be verified by the panel. Ensure the focus of the business is on a high growth potential. Your startup should accelerate and scale up very quickly and earn a lot of money. Okay, validate whether the business was accepted into business incubator. That's very easy. You can connect with business incubator and they will confirm whether you were accepted to their incubation or acceleration program. Okay, now there are two options that you may do after this session. One, you need to have a holistic evaluation of your chances to move to Canada under startup visa, under other immigration programs. If you are a foreign entrepreneur and want to move to Canada, explore all options, including startup visa. Okay, talk to us if you need advice. Talk to us. 1 hour strategy meeting will give you a lot of food for thought. It will be holistic. It will be transparent, and you can book it at sobirovs.com website. Option number two that you may do, if you are committed and you really want to go with startup visa program, then apply for an incubator. See if incubators like you. If they do, then there's a good chance that investors will like you. Angel investors, venture capitalists will like you too. Identify an incubator in your industry, whether it's agri-tech or legal tech or insurance tech or fintech. Identify that incubator and then apply. They have their own application forms. They accept for their incubator program on a rolling basis. There are deadlines, but it's ongoing all the time. Okay, prepare a great application and apply for the incubator program. See if you can generate interest. That's very good. If they want to accept you, that's a great analysis for you. Your startup is an attractive project. Okay. One message that I want you to leave this session is work with professionals. Maybe you can do it. There are many people, they want to do it themselves. Yes, all the way. You can do it. However, working with professionals will give you an edge. Okay, as you can see by now that the process is very sophisticated. It may be ruthless for amateurs. If you're amateur entrepreneur, you don't have a track record, I don't think it's a great program for you. If you have a if you are a serial entrepreneur and you've done this kind of work and projects before, then yeah, all the way, you can do that. Okay. Working with professionals will give you an edge, and professional services are costly, and be ready to invest. Okay.